we dealt with your cameras, your lenses, and genre, super critical. If you missed that, please go back and polish up on genre. So, picking up then, this is for aspiring fashion photographers, and for some sort of medium weight photographers too, this could be very relevant. This part of the episode deals with finding your own unique style, finding your voice, how critical it is to become your own fashion photographer, and then it'll be finishing off on some directing tips. We've got a few good directing videos out there, do watch them, but this is the condensed version and the tips that are essential to getting started in fashion photography. Images like this, you can go and have a look at people like Jürgen Teller or Terry Richardson, who appeal largely to youth culture fashion. Now, that's a whole subcategory within fashion, within the genre, and that's why genre is so incredibly important to me, because when you are producing work for the youth culture market, as you can see, the aesthetic is completely different. How her hair is styled, her makeup, her attitude, taking off her clothes, her animal print bikini bottom that's pulled up too high around the hips. All of these elements are rebellious elements. The nature of the light, it's not a soft, happy light. It's a hard light with an open reflector to give a hard edge to it. It feels like it comes off of an instant camera or a flash on top of the camera. So I think a lot of what shooting for youth culture is you'll go a little bit more anti-establishment. You won't try and fit in with the softer, prettier types of fashion. This is not my style of work. I can imitate it, but it's not what really makes me excited about fashion. And that's what you've got to really work hard to find, is what excites you about fashion. There are so many aspects to fashion, and where do you stand out? What do you specialize in? Because if you're just copying everyone that you see in the magazines, you're never standing out. And chances of you getting booked by a fashion editor for an editorial become more and more diminished all the time. So an image like this, I think, is indicative of my style. Some people will call my style a European high fashion style. Others will call it an editorial style. I'm not one for names. What's important for me is, what I like to do is I like to infuse story and emotion into my images. I think that's what excites me about an image. When I look at an image and I can read something in the eyes, or I can read something in the body language, that's when I start getting excited. So that's my natural inclination, is story and emotion. The other thing that I will always do with my work is, before I do a shoot, I decide whether I'm being voyeuristic or whether I'm making eye contact with the camera. Now, the great American intellectual Susan Sontag, she propositioned that photography by nature is a voyeuristic pursuit. So, we take a camera, we hide behind the camera, and we observe other people. And I get that. Films, full feature films, most of the time, don't come and try and tear this statement apart by saying, oh yeah, but look at House of Cards, he makes contact, Kevin Spacey, makes contact with the camera the whole time. In general, with film, you do not make contact with the camera. The actors never make contact. And that is called breaking the fourth wall. And just in short, what that does for your storytelling is that the person observing your story taking place immediately senses if someone makes eye contact with them. They are not voyeuristically observing the story taking place anymore. They have become a part of the story. And in photography, then this image was created for you to look at. I think I incline myself more to voyeurism, because I enjoy that the viewer can sit and watch a story taking place on the pages. But the important thing there is to realize that there's a difference in your work. If you start a shoot, as in the case in most of my shoots, I will decide beforehand, do we ever make eye contact with the camera or not? And I will try to stick to that. So I guess this part about finding your style, if you don't know your style, make that your goal. It's not something that comes immediately. You can't just go and sit down, pull out a piece of paper and look at a few images and say, oh, okay, there I've defined my style. It is something that is earned. Your voice, what you project out there with your photography, it does take a few years of getting to know yourself as a photographer and understanding what you produce best and delivering to the market what you produce best. That is your voice and your style that you have to stay true to. And fashion editors book you for your specific style that you can deliver in interpreting their brief. So if you ask people what their definition of fashion is, not fashion photography, fashion, clothing, wardrobe, a lot of people will come back and will say to you that fashion is about the way it makes you feel when you put on that garment, and that's generally what you express. So when it's springtime and people are happy and crawling out of their warm little huddles, then things are light and happy and people are bouncing through the air and it's colorful, and it's an expression of how you're feeling at that time. Now, one of the things that I love about fashion is when you're able to infuse some social commentary. So you've got story, you've got social commentary. It's all about how does this make you feel? And in these examples over here, I think this for me was a little bit of social commentary about fashion. A lot of the time probably doesn't fit the person wearing it. They haven't chosen it because they feel really good in it. They've chosen that piece of wardrobe because they've been dictated to by the pages of a fashion magazine. And hence, it's not you at your best. It's not genuinely you. And that's why I chose this very, very small little bralette that didn't quite fit right. She didn't feel quite comfortable in it. The look and the mood in her face, she's a little bit uncertain of what is actually going on. So the whole mood of these images here was to infuse a little bit of social commentary about, let's call it bad fashion for lack of anything else, or badly chosen fashion is probably a better way of expressing it. The next aspect of social commentary that I'd like to go into, it's in a broader sense, not just the person who's wearing the fashion, but society in general. And when you have social commentary on society in general, as in this image over here, I shot this image when Trump was in his early stages of his campaign trail and making a bunch of ridiculous statements and putting his foot in his mouth the whole time and building walls and generally not doing himself or Americans a lot of favors in what he was projecting out there. I think this was my reaction to what I sensed out of that. This was Donald Trump's America. It was hot, it was hard, it was sexy, there was almost a flagrant disregard of rules, and it was a little bit uncertain and a little bit dangerous. And I think that's what most people were sensing in the early days, was no one knew what to expect from this man. So that's closing off on how do I make you feel, first in a personal way, and then as part of society in general, the zeitgeist, the overwhelming zeitgeist. How is fashion making you feel? The last topic that we're going to get into for Fashion 101 is directing. So in short, there's a great 1 or 2 videos up on dphog already about directing that goes a lot more in depth into directing. But in short, it starts with casting. Cast your people correctly, and that makes your job on set a whole lot easier. What I like to do with directing, and it's part of my communication process, is to create characters. So at the beginning of a shoot, I will sketch a scenario I will tell you where you are, who you're with, what you're doing, who you are in life. So it's a lot like filmmaking, where you create a character and a good actor will get into character and convincingly play the part that they're expected to play. They can't do this without your help as a director. A model doesn't automatically know what to do. And if you're leaving it to that, then you're going to get the same results as all the other photographers that photograph that same model without directing that model. As soon as you start directing, you're starting to put your print and your style into your photography. Critically important, explain your shoot process. When someone is in front of me and during the early stages of communicating before we're on set, I will start explaining. There's two things I'm interested in. I'm interested in your eyes and your hands. Your eyes, the window to your soul. If I haven't created a proper character in your head, your eyes are going to be pretty blank. There's no real emotion, or it might not be an emotion that I've defined that I want to come out in my shots, my characters. So the explanation of, I want you to close your eyes, I want you to think for a while, I want you to get into character. I'll be waiting for you when you're ready. And when your eyes open and you're in character and you come back to the camera, those first few shots are the ones that are the most genuine, where you're the deepest in the character and the most believable. So then the hands, it's no good you're shooting something that's comfortable and light and the hands are tense. So I'll always be having a look at the hands, because that's the second biggest communicator for me. The body, we pose, we direct, we get the person into shape. And after that, it's just what's happening on the hands and the eyes. Angle of your head on your shoulders. Is it a little bit more submissive? Is it a broken neck? Is it a straight neck? Is it very proud? The height of your chin. These are all important things. So these are all communicated before the process. That's part of my shoot process. You need to explain your shoot process. So if your shoot process is to run around speaking gibberish and jumping up and down wildly to get your creative juices flowing, explain that. Don't surprise the people on set. Let them know beforehand. Very important fact of directing is be the person's friend. You are their safety net. They trust you to create beautiful images of them. So they are 100% placing themselves in your care for the period that they are in front of the camera. So be their friend. You're going to get a lot further with that. And that starts with offering the person something to drink, whether it's tea or coffee or anything else, doesn't matter. Something to drink, a crafts table, something to nibble on. Make sure that they are happy with each part of the shoot process. Explain to your makeup artist and hairstylist beforehand who this person is, what you're hoping to achieve with them. Try to get your team around you, not to discuss their dog that got ran over last week. Don't create a heavy mood on set. Let's be light and let's aim it at what we're trying to achieve. Whether it's something sophisticated, then maybe just even ask your makeup artist to dress a little bit more sophisticated for this particular shoot. Let's set the tone. Let's all be believable characters. All of these little things is part of your directing process, and it adds to the success of your shoot at the end of the day. Lastly, my last tip for directing, and the last piece of Fashion 101, is I don't allow my models to model. Now, we've been through this in depth in the directing videos, but I feel it's worth highlighting over here. You don't model. If the light is set up over there, I will give you a line of sight if what I intend is a clean face, and you don't move off of that, because now you've changed the lighting in the studio. Your model, by modeling, is altering the position of the camera and the position of the light, which is your job as a photographer. So what happens in my shoots is I do explain we will work together. It is a collaborative process, and we work together in the beginning, mostly with my guidance as to what's going to happen and with the model's input. And once we've found something, we stick with that. And there's slight alterations to achieve the final shot that I'm happy with. But don't go and model. Your lighting, you're never going to get a signature style to your lighting if you're modeling, because what's happening with every 5 or 10 degrees that your model is moving, the light and the camera angles are completely different, and it's not what you are doing as the director of your photo shoot. dphog, I hope this short little series on the fashion basics 101 of fashion has helped you get your start in fashion. Please remember, we also do classroom, and if you want, send us 3 images to info@clintonlubber.com and we'll have a look at your latest fashion attempts. Other than that, please do subscribe. We really appreciate it. Let your friends know, and let's grow this channel.